cue.
That's the actual we're live cue. So hello everybody.
So so we are live,
We're live,
live and
baby.
in living color.
Woo!
Uh, Everybody, welcome to Fat to Fit podcast. Jay Scott here in the command booth today on the ones and twos. My hetero life mate, my companion, my other half, Jared Shapiro. You never
That's
heard the
me.
term ones and twos before?
Yeah, I can't say that I have.
Yeah, it's a reference like somebody a DJ at a turntable.
A
Yeah.
career I've never had.
Well, I'm.
Although I've played one
It's
in a video game.
it's never too old to learn new things.
This is true. It's very true. Like how to run
Well,
podcasting live.
exactly, like how to do podcasting, like how to give a simple cue to someone.
That's what that was. That's what that was, baby.
Well, for those of you who are joining us today that have joined us in the past, the first couple episodes there was a bit of a discrepancy between when are we live and when are we actually streaming. There was like a little 2 or 3 second gap. So I've kind of trained myself into whenever he says we're live, then like we're not live, we're live in about 5 seconds. So
Don't blame me. Blame the Twitch studio.
you know,
It
well,
says
if you're joining
live.
us, yeah, it is what it is. But thank you for joining us, those of you who are. It's Fat to Fit podcast. You can find us on social media everywhere at hashtag Fat2Fit. And Jared's also leading the social media charge at Get Fit with Jared, wherever social media is found. And you can find me on Twitter at JScottTalks if you want to follow me on there. So we're gonna have a bit of a different episode today. So I feel like the last couple episodes we've hit some big topics and really broken them down, and I think we did a really good job with everything so far. In terms of making things relatable to people of kind of all different backgrounds, because that's really what we like to do is we like to say, okay, like this is us talking about our fitness journeys and what we do, but we also want to make sure that for the person who's kind of new to fitness or isn't in fitness at all yet because they're trying to find out where to go, that we provide a resource for them. And we both have the privilege of having failed at virtually everything in our lives.
At some point. There's some success
so
too, but it
so we
balances out.
both I was thinking about that today, like while I was at work and I was in the office and I was walking around and I was thinking, just abstractly, like what makes me qualified to help someone set a goal, right? Like you can't go to college for that, necessarily. Like, if I was a nutritionist, I could help someone set nutrition goals, right? Like that's obvious. But like talking about life goals, like aspirations, hopes, dreams. And I'm like, the thing I think that separates, everyone from everyone is the amount of success and failures they've had in their life. And if a person has not failed a lot, they really can't tell you how to bounce back from failure.
Very
If
true.
you're born with a lot of money and great genes, and you live in a nice area in a safe place, you're probably going to go far. But the work ethic of a person who's born behind the 8 ball is very different. And I think that's where I come from. I know that's where you come from to a lesser degree. So I wanted to kind of have just like an open talk today about, like, not necessarily goal setting, because that's kind of its own thing, but the way I think you characterized it in email to me earlier this week is you're like, how do we prioritize breaks and rest? And then I said, well, outside of that, how do we prioritize fitness? Like, so what's the relationship between the two? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. The key to all of it is balance, which we're going to get into, um, and not just winging it. You got to actually have a plan
Yeah,
going into things. So
absolutely. So before we get too far in, we just always like to read our little disclaimer that the Fat to Fit podcast is about our fitness journey. You always laugh when I do this, like you think it's
it's a beautiful
hilarious.
read, and I just want to remind people that I may be a Shapiro, but there's no doctor or lawyer on either end of that. So,
Um,
or Hollywood agent.
the
That's the other big one.
the Fat to Fit podcast, we're talking about our fitness journeys. We are not clinical professionals. We are not giving you medical advice, and nothing we say should be taken as medical advice. It should be taken for entertainment only. We're relaying our journeys and information based on what we have experienced in our lives and what we've learned on the way, which we're going to share with you. But our information, stories, anecdotes, etc., should never, ever, 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 ever be construed for medical advice, clinical advice, or taken instead of the advice of a licensed medical professional. We always encourage anyone who's on a fitness journey, whether you're just starting or near the end or somewhere in the middle, please consult a medical professional and get expert guidance on what you're doing. If you don't know where to begin, please reach out to us and we can help you get to a starting point and refer you to some of the things that and people with whom we're familiar. That being said, let's get started with Fat to Fit this week.
Woo!
So, Jared, when we talk about balance, so I think that's a heavy word because, so I think the average, and I hate to even say the term average person because we talked about that a few weeks ago with overtraining. Like, what is average? There is no average anymore, right? But, so when I say the average person, I'm talking about just a regular person that, works a job or two, right? Because we all work multiple jobs these days. A person that goes to work every day and they're trying to manage their work life, their home life, and fitness is fitting somewhere into that. So if I say average person, that's what I mean. I'm not necessarily meaning like someone who's 5'10", 185 pounds. That's not what we're talking about today. So I'm a person with...
we're not talking about the person whose career is fitness related. We're talking about...
Exactly.
Fitness is something you do in this case.
Exactly. And that was something we talked about just before we went live. I was like, it's almost like when we talk about balance, the conversation kind of, there are a couple conversations that run parallel because if you're, I hate to say just a regular person, but if you're a regular person and you don't compete, you're not a professional athlete or an aspiring professional athlete, then fitness for you is going to be a very solitary existence. It's, it's going to be something that, you have to motivate yourself for, you have to plan for, you have to work at, as opposed to someone who is an athlete in any respect. They have organizational support and structure, and they have a competitive element to what they do. Even singular sports like bodybuilding or boxing or powerlifting, like even though you're not competing with a team, you're competing probably in training with other people in that arena, and you're working toward a competitive goal, not necessarily trying to be your best self. And I think what you and I have both learned, especially as we've become disciple, or you've become the disciple for Diamond Dallas Page. I'm just a member of the congregation. But as we've but as we've incorporated DDPY into what we do and been following Page in his books and stuff, I think one thing that you and I have picked up on is that it's probably more difficult to do things on your own than to have a team around you.
Yeah, having a support structure is pretty critical to, getting anything done, really. For instance, DDP Yoga. Part of the reason I started posting my my stats and stuff for my workouts is because that's a way for me to hold myself accountable, because I'm to my audience going, here, this is what my workout looked like today. If I don't post, like this morning, in a way I feel like I'm not necessarily cheating my audience of seeing these amazing, spectacular workouts goals. In a way I'm cheating myself because I've let myself slip up and not hold myself accountable, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think so you and I are friends on MyFitnessPal, which I haven't been using at all, but every morning it'll send me a notification and it'll say, Jared, congratulate Jared for doing 40 minutes of yoga or whatever.
Right.
And and then some morning, and you're right, some mornings when I wake up and I don't see that notification, I'm like, oh, is it an off day for him? And I think that, I'm not going to necessarily text you and be like, hey, why haven't you worked out this morning, right? But that's kind of how this check-in situation works, because social media is a weird animal for that, because the private group that we're on Facebook, which I won't mention because we don't want people to find it, but you know the one I'm talking about. Sorry guys, it's an ultra exclusive club with some famous people in there. It's just for us.
Yes, us. We're in it. We're the famous people.
But everybody posts their workouts in there on an almost daily basis, and when you haven't seen from someone in a while, you're thinking, oh, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And there's been times when I've had people from our group message me and been like, dude, you haven't posted any pics in a while. Are you okay? And I'm like, I've been going to the gym every day. I just don't, because, and that's where you and I are always on different sides of the spectrum, because the idea of checking in every day in that consistency and that habit, it means a lot to you.
Yeah.
And it's something that you enjoy and you're proud of, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I always see that as a hindrance, and I have to force myself to post things even when I'm supposed to. Like I always struggle with that because I hold myself accountable, and I guess in more of an abstract way, because I don't tell people I'm going to go do this, right? I just, if I decide I want to do it, I just go do it. And that's where, and that has worked against me a lot in life because I've never cultivated a support system around me or tried to. And then in times when I've been either injured or just down and life has beaten me up or whatever, I don't really have a lot of like outside things I can draw from.
Right.
So, there's definitely pros and cons to everything, but I like the way that you phrase that posting that stuff keeps you accountable, because then there is a, maybe fear is not the right word, or shame, but it's like, if I know if I don't post this, it's going to be noticed.
Right. And I do
And
have people that sometimes I feel like I'm spamming people with these posts, but I occasionally have someone mention, "Hey, man, I see you're working out. You're doing a great job." Little things like that. It's not for me. Like it's not something that I look towards. Like I'm not.
it's not an
expecting
ego
someone to
boost.
exactly. But it's
Yeah,
good to know that by seeing this, other people are saying, "Hey, man, I see what you're doing, and it makes me want to do it too." Which is one of the
exactly.
reasons
So,
I got my certification to teach DDP yoga.
I know we're straying a little off the topic, but this is kind of a conversation that's going to develop as we go. But so there you've hit on a vein that's very important to me. So and also anyone listening, if you're in the chat, throw your comments and questions in there. Jared's monitoring the chat. um I'm just talent. I don't do those things. So when you say that you've had people say things like that to you, so what I find is that, and this is something that, so I'm 38, right?
Youngin.
uh I'm a youngin. So those of you who are under 38, let me give you a piece of advice. If you listen to nothing else I say, right? If you listen to anything else about, I'm going to talk about powerlifting, strongman, wrestling, whatever. Listen to this. You need to stop walling yourself in from the outside world. If that is what you do, then you need to stop. You need to keep a journal. You need to take pictures of everything, and you need to spend time with people. Those are three things I never did when I was younger. When I was having the most exciting life ever, I documented none of it. And for example, what made me think of that? I posted this is a couple years ago now. I posted a video where I was doing a strongman style lift. It's hard to describe, but basically, there's this apparatus that they have at some gyms that mimics like a car deadlift, and I had about 1,050 pounds on it, and I posted a video where I was getting like 6 reps of it, and I was pretty proud of that because I was training for a contest where I would have to do a car deadlift, and I posted video on Facebook, and I was like, I posted something. I was like, so I bet your boyfriend can't move 1,000 pounds or something like that. And I had so many people not comment saying, "Oh my God, that's amazing," or "Oh, what are you training for?" Da da da. They were saying things like, "Oh, you go to the gym?" like like, "Oh, you work out? I didn't know." And it's like, I've been lifting weights 3 or 4 days a week my entire since I was 14 years old, right? But if you don't share those things with people, you know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
don't include people in your life, no one knows what you're doing. So, and I say that because I think what you do is helpful. One, because we know it helps you because it keeps you honest, but also it does create a record of sorts for what you're doing. So a year from now, your Facebook memories, will pop up, or 5 years from now, or even just life in general, you can look back through your history and say, wow, yeah, I was doing that. And I feel like I really cheated myself at this middle stage of my life, because when I was younger, I thought that it was a waste of time to record any of that stuff. Any of my crazy lifts in the gym or at strongman contests and stuff, or like times when like I ripped a door off of hinges one time, and it's like I didn't even think about having someone record that. I just did it, like crazy feats of strength I've done, and it's like I wish I had a record for that, and I don't. And so and to dovetail to balance, when you mentioned balance to me over email, like so many thoughts came in my head. But one thing that I thought about is the balance that we have to maintain in life isn't so much fitness versus non-fitness things, but it's like, how do we balance out where we put our energy? And I always looked at spending the energy on posting things or sharing things in public was a waste. But now that I'm removed from my glory days, so to speak, I really see the value in that. And I wish I had balanced my time differently.
You know, I have a text somewhere where you mentioned carrying a couch by yourself. If you need
Yeah.
that, I'll screenshot it and send it your way.
So for the benefit of the audience, I bought a couch and a comfy chair a couple weeks ago, probably 2-3 months ago at this point, and they got dropped off in my living room. And I already have a couch in my living room, so there's no room for this other couch. But I was like, I got to do something with it, and I was gonna move and didn't move. It's a story not for the podcast, but I was like, I can take this in my drawing room, and I can have a couch to lay on in there and read books or whatever. And I didn't necessarily have anyone to help me move it. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, it'd be pretty badass if I moved this couch upstairs by myself. And I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen. Okay,
Fall down, break your neck. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that can happen with a couch on top of you. But, you know.
So
sure.
the worst possible thing that can happen is I slip and fall. And that's not going to happen. And I say that not being a man, like, oh, that's not going to happen, but being a person with incredible footwork and incredible balance. There's that word again. You know, and also someone who knows that if the couch is going to go, I'm going to bail first and the couch can just fall apart. So I was like, the worst thing that can happen is I get stuck halfway up. I can't move it. And then I have to get someone to help me tomorrow. And I would say of the things I've done in my life, moving that couch upstairs by myself, and I wasn't walking it. I mean, I was holding it up and then carrying it up the stairs. I don't even think it was in the top 10 most difficult things I ever done. But the thing that I hate the most is you tell people you do that and they're so amazed by it. And I'm like, I've lifted 10 things heavier than that in the last month, but they're just not flashy.
I mean, lifting a couch is pretty showy. I mean,
it is showy. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not the only time I've ever lifted a couch. One time, my ex was getting rid of a couch, and I took it to the dump for her, and it was in the back of my truck. And when I got it out of my truck, the guy who works there was like, "Oh, let me help you." And I said, "No. I want to do this." and I angled the couch over the side of the truck, and I picked it over my head like a military press. I did a full extension, and then I just threw it into the container to see if I could. I did a little chest slap.
That works too.
and the guy was he was like, man, I never seen somebody do that before. And I was like, you won't see it again. You know, but that's the kind of stuff I like to do. I mean, you're probably immune to it because you've been around me so long. You know, I do crap like that all the time.
I've seen weird crap from you, yeah.
Yeah, I try to break stuff or see if I can bend metal or things like that. It's what I do. But you know, we're getting a lot off topic. So
not too far.
Maybe not too far, but you know, it's funny. It's just like I think about like all the things that I've spent my energy on in life in general. And this is something that, and again, I'm not going to beat Diamond Dallas Page to death every week, but I know he's your guy. So, and I know a lot of people who like DDPY and practice it do listen to our show. But when Page talks about setting SMART goals in that book, what book was it he talks about that where it's got the section for SMART or the SmackDown?
Well, Positively Unstoppable is his most recent one. I think he covered it in both books, but
yeah, I think it was in both, yeah. But when he talks about setting goals, essentially he's got an expanded version of making SMART goals. He calls SmackDown goals, right? And part of it is being honest with yourself about what you actually want to achieve. I think that's probably the number one problem that most people have is they don't know exactly what they want. And when I say exactly what I want, if I say I want to lose weight, great, that's admirable. Most people want to lose weight. But there's a difference between saying I want to lose weight versus I want to lose 25 pounds. Because when you say I want to lose 25 pounds, well, now you're getting specific to a degree that you have to actually create a plan. Yeah. And you need to have behaviors to support that plan. And then you need to have preparation to support those behaviors. And I think that's where people get off on the wrong foot always is because they start in the great unknown where they say, well, I just want to be more active and lose weight. Okay, great. So what does being more active mean? Being more active means you're going to get up and walk to the mailbox, or yeah, as opposed to
For
not.
some people,
You know,
you know,
but then and so that's okay, and so that's another thing, scalability. And I don't want to be all over the place, but it's that thing. So like being more active. Yeah, I got a friend of mine who's a nurse, and I hit 10,000 steps the other week, and I was so proud. I was like, dude, I hit 10,000 steps, and I sent her a screenshot. And then she sent me hers, where her low for the week was like 20,000 steps.
when I was
you
retail,
know,
it was like that too.
and it's like everybody's normal is different, and everybody's good is different. And that's something that I will preach till I'm blue in the face. For me, being more active would be doing cardio 5 times a week instead of three. But for someone who isn't, in a fitness program at all right now, just doing anything is going to be more, and that's admirable. And when we say that you've got to find a balance, part of finding that balance is being able just to write down on a sheet of paper exactly what you want to achieve. So if you're the person that's like sitting on the couch right now and you just like, I don't like my body and I don't like the way I am, but I don't know what to do, start small. Just say, hey, let me go weigh myself, and then, let me lose 5 pounds. Because to lose 5 pounds, you're going to have to do something different. And losing 5 pounds can happen with just minor changes. So that's a great place to start, because that's not going to upset, that there's a word again, balance of your life currently. But if you start small enough, and if you start like, if you're dedicated enough to start small and you can stay fixed on that one point, then that becomes part of your norm. And then once that becomes part of your norm, you can expand it. And it's a cliche, because if you can walk one day, then you can jog the next day, you can run the next day, right? Because you always get better. But that's how life is, because I balance one full-time job, one job that's more than full-time, and then I balance two part-time jobs, one of which could potentially be 7 days a week. So my calendar is blocked in with hours every day to determine what I'm going to do. And I can't keep that pace forever. But for me, I know that I need to earn while I can.
Yeah.
And then one day I'll just rage quit and not have to work anymore. Right.
Store your
And
couch
that's
when you leave.
and that's the balance that I've struck. And part of that balance is I have to make going to the gym a priority. It's not an option. It's not an option for me to just take the night off when I feel like for instance, today. Now, I've had a day. Yesterday, I worked 18 hours. Now, I wasn't awake 18 hours. I worked 18 hours. I was awake for about 22 hours.
Ooh,
And
don't miss those days.
and folks, if you're listening, this is not desirable behavior, okay?
No.
At all. Period.
Not at
Not at all. This was and I don't want to get into too great detail about my personal life, but this was the perfect storm, solar eclipse, Mayan 2012 calendar, when every job responsibility literally lined up on one day. And I was up till about 2 a.m. last night finishing things up. And it's like, okay, I can't do this forever, right? But that's just one day. So a day like today, so I wake up today, little sleep, I'm tired, I'm strung out. I'll go to the office. I worked all day. It's pouring down rain. I got rained on leaving the office, getting home, and then I got rained on again once I got home. I'm in a horrible mood, and I'm like, it would be very easy for me to just say, you know what? For my mental health, I'm going to take the day off from the gym, and I'm going to lay on the couch, and I'm going to watch Netflix, right? And sometimes that may be the best thing to do. Like that's we transition to talking about rest. I would never say that taking a rest day is bad or taking an unscheduled rest day is bad. But I know for me, I've only been to the gym once this week due to my other commitments, and it's Thursday. If I don't go today, and I can still go tomorrow, but I know I can't go Saturday. So now I'm down to just twice this week instead of 3 times. And that's unacceptable to me, because that's the limit that I've made for myself.
Yeah.
And that's come through years of refining that process. So for someone listening, maybe that you're going to the gym twice a week, and twice a week works for you. And that's great. Whatever you find that actually works for you and gives you success is great. But twice a week, okay, maybe we need to move up to 3 times a week, okay? and you do that slowly until it becomes part of your practice, until it becomes something that then you understand that it's a priority, it's a fixed point in the sky, it's something that doesn't change.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I started doing the hashtag 5 days of fitness on Instagram and on Twitter with my DDP yoga workouts. I started doing them in the mornings because I wasn't able to consistently get the time in after work that I wanted because of other commitments that I would have. But I can control my situation, wake up an hour earlier, get my workout in, and then start my day. But just like your situation, some days something comes up and you can't work out. Last week I had an injured elbow. Was it last week? Yeah,
Yes,
last week.
or the week before last. That we weren't here last week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So a couple weeks ago, jujitsu, hyperextended elbow, fun times. Can't really do much with it. I had to take part of that week off from both workouts, and then I eased myself back in the next week. But even today, I couldn't do my workout today because arm was flaring up and well, a leg issue flared up too. So sometimes I miss a workout, but I also know that I've worked out every other day this week. I got jujitsu in on Sunday and Tuesday, so that's a couple hundred calories easily burned just doing that. And I know I'll be able to work out tomorrow, and I'll be back at jujitsu on Sunday. So I know that even though I missed today, I'm going to make up for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so I and it sounds for the person who isn't working out at all in any way. They probably hear like, "Oh, I do jujitsu twice a week, and I'm doing DDP yoga 5 days a week," and they're like, "Oh my god, that's so much." And it is, but it isn't because you're jiu-jitsu for what, 2 hours, maybe
An hour,
three.
2 hours, yeah.
Okay, so you're jiu-jitsu for 2 hours, for 4 hours a week, and then you got 5 hours a week of DDP yoga. Generally, sometimes you do more, but roughly about an hour workout
Yeah.
every day.
Honestly, my morning
So
workouts are a little shorter. I usually do 30 to 45 minutes.
yeah,
So,
so
it's not terrible.
you're spending essentially, even with driving time, less than 10 hours a week,
Yeah.
right? And and like for me, I go to the gym three times a week is my minimum, and I'm usually there 2 hours every time, and maybe sometimes a little bit more depending on the situation. So same thing for me, even with driving time, less than 10 hours a week. And though our workouts are different, and our goals are different, we're both becoming successful because we found a balance that's healthy. Because the training is a portion of it, but the diet, sleep, keeping up with your medical stuff, keeping up your blood work, your cholesterol, that sort of thing, that's a much bigger component than the actual work. The workout's just the fun part.
Yeah.
And if you and that's something that helped me as I got to be older, and I'm like, I'm getting older. I can't just do whatever I want anymore. And I'm like, going to the gym is not punishment. Going to the gym is a reward, because going to the gym and lifting weights and seeing the girls and talking to the guys and stuff, that's fun compared to steaming broccoli and sitting in an ice bath. Or like in my case, like my knees are so bad, I've got patella supports on both knees, and I've got wraps on both knees to do my cardio, and then my knee still hurts, and then when I get home I've got to sit on the couch with my legs up with ice packs on both of them. So 3 nights a week I'm spending almost as much time rehabbing as I do actually working. But if I didn't do that, I would be in so much pain that my regular daily life would be impacted by it.
Right.
So I think that if when we talk about like programming, which we'll get into that another day, but part of your programming isn't just the workout, it's everything around it, and you have to figure that into your daily life. And I think that especially for Americans, I imagine everyone listening is probably from America.
That one
Like
French guy's going to get upset with you.
I think about how much time a person can spend just on one weekend just watching Netflix, right? Or watching Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever. Like people binge watch shows, and that's recreation time. And you need recreation time. You need
Yeah.
time to unwind. But I think that so many people get sucked into that because they don't have structure. And because once you have structure, you don't have time to binge watch a show for 8 hours. When you have structure, that's something that maybe you can plan to do, or maybe something that you choose to do, but it won't be something that you get swept up in. And I think that what holds people back more than anything. It's not, it's never determination, it's never drive, it's always a lack of structure, because they want things but they don't prepare for them. And people are so used, and here's where I'm going to sound like, and I don't want to sound like this, but like the Jocko Willink type guys, so many people are used to sounding like a victim, and so many people are used to being helpless, that it's like, oh, I worked at my 8 hours today and it's killing me, right? And maybe it is, and maybe your job does stress you out. You don't have to be a bricklayer to have a bad day at work. But like, if going to work every day at your job prevents you from doing anything else that day, number one, you need a career change, right?
Yeah.
Like, just look at it logically. Like, if going to work for your 8 or 9 hours a day makes it so that you can't do a single thing else when you get home because you're either too physically tired, too mentally tired, or emotionally drained. Cool. I've been there. I've been all three of those things at different stages in my life. And what did I do? I found something different. I found something better, because, and this isn't Ion fix my life, but when we talk about fitness, you can't be in better shape if you're stressed out, and you can't be in better shape if you're depressed and constantly struggling to get through every day. So you have to work to find a better balance in your personal life, because if you don't have the personal life figured out, none of your fitness endeavors are going to bear fruit.
Yeah, that's definitely a sign that balance is off somewhere. If you're either too exhausted when you get home, or you don't want to go home for some reason, those are two things to look at to get that fixed first, and then once that's healthy, then you can start working on your personal health. Going to the gym, if you're having trouble at work or home, going to the gym to try to get healthier, you're not going to see the results you want.
Yep.
Just a
And
fact.
one thing that I've come to terms with over the years also, when we talk about like the gym as a coping mechanism, right? When I go back in my life and I'm like, when was I stressed out the most, right? Like when I've been injured or different things between jobs, and I'm like, where do I find myself? In the gym, right? Usually it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm half asleep and I'm sitting there staring at the mirror, and then it's like, that's not burning calories. That's not getting stronger. That's
That's your
just, it
happy
has become.
place.
Exactly. Yeah, like physically, it's a place where I feel safe, and it's a place where I feel happy, and it's a place where I know I can go and I belong there when maybe I don't feel that way at home or at work or whatever. And I think that there's a lot of good to come from that, especially for people in bad situations. Having the gym as a safe place is awesome. But once you get to the point where your personal life maybe is on a level playing field, if the gym is still a coping mechanism, you're going to struggle to succeed when you go there,
Right.
because then the emotions you bring to the gym every day aren't going to be, I'm excited to be here so I can burst through my plateau. You're still going to be thinking, this is where I can come and cry in the shower. And that's, and I
No one
speak
can
from
see me.
experience. Yeah, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
judging anyone. Like, guys, my life is a Korean drama, okay? And I've spent many days in the gym, like either hungover or passed out, or I had nowhere to go, and I would
I've been with
sleep
you on a few of
there.
those.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, as for me personally, because we're talking about our journeys, right? So when I was going through my lowest points in life, especially with drinking and everything, like the gym was, oh, I can go there and shower and get cleaned up. I can get coffee. I can get a protein shake. I can sit in the lounge for a bit, and then once I got my head clear, I can go work out. Sweat this out in the sauna, get in the shower, get cleaned up, and be about my day. Right. So it serves such a practical purpose. But then when I get clean, then when I get sober, then when I have a house to go to, well, what good is the gym at that point? Because it's just been a safety net for so long. So I had to relearn, like, I can't have the gym just be like a silent counselor, right?
Yeah.
It has to be a place where I go and I'm active and I do things. Same thing for people who go to the gym when they're angry. I think one of the worst things you can do is work out to redirect your anger. Now, if you're a person that has anger issues, like legitimate anger issues, then maybe that's a tool to use. But if you're just a regular, normal person without an anger problem, without anger management issues, if you only work out when you're angry, what do you do when you're not angry anymore? Right? Are you planning on being angry your whole life? I did at one point because I was, you know me, when I was young, I was always mad at everything.
Yeah,
And
you
now,
were the Hulk.
and now
The
you
Pink
can't get
Hulk.
me mad. I can't get mad about anything now, right? It took me years to reach that level of zen where I'm detached from things enough where bad things happen and I process them and I move through them, but I don't get angry where I have to, like, I've got to go to the gym and get this out of me, and I had to learn to fall in love with the gym again as a place of productivity where work gets put in, not a place where anger gets burned out.
It's the other office.
It's that's a great analogy. It's the other office.
Yep. But the fun office, Yeah.
I'm feeling like I'm being a bit preachy tonight. I'm sorry if I am.
You said organic, and I think it's coming from an organic place.
Well,
I'm enjoying it. It's a good
well,
one.
this topic is just real important to me because, man, the gym has been my mistress my whole life, and through good or bad, the gym's always been there. And when I was younger, like when I was a teenager, and I had my workout station at home, and I had all my stuff outside to train with, that was the highlight of my day, right?
Oh yeah.
And working out in the yard with my dad, and my dad teaching me how to box and stuff like that. I mean, there's probably nothing in my life that's ever meant more to me than that. And then I get a little bit older and I'm on my own, and it's like as I'm going off to college and doing different things in like places where I don't have my dad anymore, right? Or my mom. The gym was a place where I always had people that looked out for me. And I always, every gym I've ever been to, when I was younger, especially, like people could see that, okay, this kid really wants to learn. He wants to lift good. He wants to be in shape. And I had so many guys over the years take me under their wing. And I try to pay that back now that I'm the old guy in the gym. I,
You're gonna be
I,
that guy soon.
yeah, I try to pay that back. So earlier in the beginning of the show, you said something about when you post on Facebook, you're not looking for people to like applaud you or whatever. So one thing that I ran into several years ago when my strength was kind of at its peak, when I would be especially deadlifting, because deadlifting, if you're having a max out day in the deadlift platform, that's kind of a show in itself. I literally had people like sit down on the floor and watch me, and that to me is the greatest respect someone could pay. And then I'm like, I feel like I owe it to these people not only to give my best effort, but also if they have questions, right? Or if they, well, would you watch me? Would you help me? I feel like if you have an obligation. Like I've said this before on my social media channels, but people like myself who are born strong, I feel like we have an obligation not only to be strong, but to help others be strong. And sometimes that strength is physical, like it is with me. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes it's emotional. As strong as I am, there's a million single moms out there that could lap me 10 or 15 times in terms of strength, and they share that strength by raising their children and raising their families. And I think about a lot, like the gifts that we're given, like what are we doing with them, and are we really saying, hey, my strength is, like, for me, my strength is physical. I'm a physically strong person. I have a tremendous amount of endurance and stamina and high tolerance for pain. Now selfishly, I can use all those things, and I have to be a wrestler and to be a fighter and stuff like that. But am I using my strength, or am I in a manner of speaking, am I like proselytizing with my strength to help other people realize their potential, right? Because that's what we should be doing. And like with you, with DDPY, and like I pick at it, but because it's not lifting weights, but you
Body
have
weight.
but you have connected with people because you found your niche.
Yeah.
And you're like, you try to tell people every day, like, hey, follow me and I can help you find your niche too. Maybe it's not this, but maybe it's something else.
Yeah. One of these days, Reggie's gonna listen too. One of these
See,
days.
I wasn't gonna bring any names into this.
Oh, don't worry. He'll
Our
never see this.
our good friend Reggie over at the Willis Show on YouTube. Check him out. But I just think about it so much where it's like, what can we do? What can we do with our gifts to not only help ourselves but to help other people? And again, we talk about balance, and part of balance is playing to your strengths, which is something that again Diamond Dallas Page talks a lot about in his books. If you know you're good at something, well then you should lean into that, not away from it,
Yeah.
right? But then also
That's
the
in fitness and
dividing.
life in general.
Exactly. Yeah, and the dividing line for that is your goals. Because if your goals aren't supported by your strengths, you're going to have to work harder to get there.
Right.
So maybe
It's a
your
life cycle.
strengths, yeah, your goals should align with what your strengths are to have a easier time there. But if they don't, then you need to be mentally and emotionally prepared to do more. Like I'm not a long distance runner. I never could be, right? That's just not. It's
I'm not
not
even a
it.
short distance runner.
Like I give you guys an example. I don't know if any of the boys are listening, but we had a workout a few weeks ago at our friend of the show, Jared Fritz. Find him on social media at #RefFit. He's a referee for the NWA. Um, he hosted a workout at his house, and he nearly killed us all. And and at the end of the workout, he was like, "We're going to cool down by doing about a half a mile jog." And I was like, "Jared, that half a mile jog might that's the
That'll
end.
kill
That's
you.
how I die." Yeah. And he's like, he's the most obnoxiously positive person. I hate him. And he's like, "Oh, brother, you'll be fine. Come on." And he like grabs my water bottle and pours some carnitine in there, and he's like, "Just take a couple hits of this, and it'll keep your muscles going."
That's
And
Jared, all
so,
right.
yeah, and so there were about 10 of us, I think, maybe 12, and we start off in a little path, and he had a half a mile marked out in his neighborhood. Well, I'm like, you know what? This jogging is so slow for me. I'm done. So I take off running, and I sprinted maybe, I don't know, probably a good two, maybe even 300 yards. And then I started having a stroke. And and then I'm like, whew, okay. So I'm kind of just like pacing, and I'm letting everybody catch up to me. But then at that point, I was
Letting everyone
exhausted.
catch up to you.
Yeah, Jared will tell you I was way ahead of everyone, and
Yeah,
at that
and you were
point
exhausted, so
I
you
was
let them catch
exhausted,
up. Yeah, I got you.
and they caught up and they passed me, and I was so tired, like I couldn't catch up at all, and I wanted to quit, but they wouldn't. They were picking on me so bad, I couldn't. I had to go, and I tried to cheat, and they wouldn't let me. And it's like, what are your strengths? Well, my strength is I'm like the juggernaut. I'm incredibly fast for a very short period of time. Like
Very
distance and
dangerous
endurance.
over short distances.
Yeah, like I'm a fourth and one running back. I'm not a first and 10 running back. And and it's just like just a funny story because he's might be listening. I don't know, Zuka King. Find him on he's a professional wrestler, good friend of mine. Find him everywhere on social media at Zuka King. He has he has the endurance of like a Kenyan marathon runner, but he's like 200 pounds. Like, like, like Tristan is like 200 pounds. He's muscled up, but he can run forever. He can run forever and then do box jumps. And then he can do push ups and sit ups and burpees and everything else. And then he can just sit down at the table and drink a six pack. Like he has he has that unique mix of endurance and fortitude, that not everybody has. So when we train with him, we know that we have to push him very hard to get him past that barrier because he was blessed with such good genetics and such a good work ethic. Like it's not like he's lazy, but to get to that next level, we all need something to push us.
Yeah.
And when we work out with him, we always have to push him harder, and then in turn he gives it right back to me because I'm the same way. When we're working out together and I'm lifting weights or I'm flipping a tire or something that's easy for me, well then they make it more difficult because they know I'm slacking off. And finding that kind of relationship, like it makes the workouts better, but also it makes you honest with yourself about what you can do. When I was like I said, when I was working out with them and I was running, I haven't run anywhere except to the bathroom in years. Like, my knee and ankle are in such shape. Like, I mean, I use the elliptical and stair climber, and I've done like mountain climbers and like bear crawls and stuff outside, but I've never actually just like got on the road and run anywhere. And I was like, man, I've been holding myself back, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's like, and I'm the guy who always says people do that, but I don't, and I realize I've really been holding myself back. So that put me in a weird headspace where I'm like, okay, if I've been holding myself back about this, what else have I been holding myself back about? Maybe, and I'm dovetail just to the beginning of the show, maybe I let my balance become my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And now I realize that I need to push myself out of that comfort zone, but you can't do that until you acknowledge what you're doing and then acknowledge what you want to do. I can't stress that enough. You have to write this stuff down. You have
Absolutely.
to write down what you want and how you're going to get there so you know what's working and what's not working. You have to do it that way.
One of the nice things too is, I mean, it's so easy to log these things now. I'm terrible about keeping track of paper. Like I've started notebooks and usually make it 10 pages in before I need a new one because I don't know where the other one went. But now, I mean, you're probably watching this on a device where you can go in, you can track your calories, you can set your goals, you can, post your goals to Facebook if you want to. Um, Hell, you can even use it to set a calendar with reminders for I need to train this on this day at this time. Uh, it's so easy now to become organized with our modern technology that no reason not to.
Yeah, there's no reason not to at all. That anyone can, you can go from zero to not only having a plan built just for you, but having goals built just for your plans and nutrition and everything else in like in no time.
Yeah,
Like if I wanted to right now, because I've been toying with the idea of going back to do strongman contests this year. I could log on. One of my favorite strongmen's Terry Hollins. I don't think he's listening, but shout out to Big Terry. Um, he does online coaching and he has a company that does nutrition plans and stuff. Like I could email them right now, fill out the form, pay the $150 or whatever it costs, and I would not only have a plan, for the gym, but a meal plan, a supplement plan, and a coaching session set up with him in no time, right? And the time it took them to read it and put it together. And sometimes that sounds ridiculous, but the thing is that coaching is sometimes like absolutely worth the cost.
yeah,
And because sometimes, especially if you're not very knowledgeable about what you're doing, or you realize that you're not knowledgeable enough to get you to that next level, well, you got to get the knowledge from somewhere, and you're going to have to, basically recruit someone who can help you instead of just trying to fend for yourself online and just Google everything. So that's another, just small aspect of this, balance thing is, like we both have friends that are professional athletes and professional entertainers. They don't have time to sit around and cook food every day. So these meal services are a lifesaver. Whereas you and I would say, well, I'm not spending that money. Well, that's because we can afford to spend an hour in the kitchen, here and there, and they can't. So, just everybody's
to
normal
be
is
fair, some
different.
aren't that bad.
And some really aren't. Yeah, like Clean Eats is one that I've had before
I
that's
think that's the
really,
one I've
really
been
good.
looking at. Either that one or Good Food. I don't know. Something on Instagram keeps popping up. I looked. The price wasn't terrible, but it's
Yeah.
the nice thing about it is it's already done. It's healthy and it's properly portioned.
Yes.
Which that's another part of balance is proper portions.
Yeah, proper portion, and that's probably today isn't the macro episode, but when we
No.
talk about portions, it's like, okay, so if you're gonna get 40 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs, and 20 grams of fat on your plate, what does that actually look like? And it's not very much. It's not very much at all,
Yeah.
But then you think about what your plates actually look like, and you've got a whole dinner plate and food hanging off the edge, and it's stacked up too high, and you got to have two hands to carry it.
I mean, that's how I like it, but that's what made me the man I am today.
Exactly, yeah. And and that's one thing I think a lot of people just, it's one of those things you don't really know until you kind of get deep into the fitness world.
Yeah.
But when you start counting calories and counting your macros, it's like, holy moly, like the number one thing people realize, I'm eating way too many carbs out of the gate. everybody's eating too many carbs.
Yeah.
And probably the close second is they're not eating enough protein, and the close third is they're eating too much fat.
And
You
sugar.
know, but and the sugar, like for me, I've noticed that if I just cut sugar, I don't even count carbs, right? If I just cut the sugar down, period,
Yeah.
like, and I still enjoy the potatoes and corn and other stuff that I like, but no processed sugars, and I stay away from the starchy stuff. I weight wise, I probably lose a little bit more, but I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And then the good thing about monitoring your sugar to that degree is just like with caffeine. If you just use a little bit here and there, then when you use it, you actually can feel it. Like
Yeah.
I just took a hit of strawberries before we started the show, and
Little strawberries.
and I could feel like it hitting my system, and I was like, yes, like this is now I'm turned on, and yeah. So again, that balance, like it's like you should never be thinking you need to go zero anything, right? You should never be thinking zero carbs, or you should never be thinking all protein. There has to be a balance, because our bodies are, though our
It
bodies
needs
have
that stuff.
changed, but like our bodies have changed a lot over the years, and even changed recently, but we still need a balance of different macronutrients and micronutrients to be baseline healthy. But then once you establish a baseline, if you want to continue to increase your performance, you're going to have to find what works, lean into that, and then make sure you monitor your progress.
Yeah.
Because what our norm is, our the balance we strike, it changes based on what we're doing, and we have to always be cognizant of what we're doing, which is why I tell everybody, keep a journal. Like, keep a journal, not just a workout journal, but a life journal. Write, even if you just write 2 or 3 sentences every other day, just what you're doing at that time. Because on my iPhone, like, I've always logged my workouts in notes, and sometimes I'll just go back to a random note from like 2015. Well, what was I lifting during this time? And I see it, and I'm like, I'm still lifting the same amount. What's going on here? Right? Or I look at something, I'm like, wow, I'm a lot better than I was. And just those little reminders help keep us honest and keep us on track.
I think it's one of those similar to logging your workouts, but in a way easier. The reference photos is something that Dallas talks about a lot in his book, and I know it's something I haven't been as good about as I should be. But if I just look at my reference photos from when I started DDP yoga, there's 6 they want you to take.
Yeah.
6 positions. I could barely get into them on day
Yeah.
one. And then my more recent ones, I'm pretty much holding it, matching the icon almost of what you want it to look like. But
Bro.
even just looking back, like my memories that pop up on Facebook, I have this one that pops up from 2012, which was right before I moved to New York. I was at one of my heavier points. I was around 310, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it's just me shot upwards. I'm just like, good Lord, how did I let myself get that big? And even now, like, I don't feel smaller, but I'm 50 pounds smaller than what I was back then.
Yeah.
Like, things fit me differently. Like, this shirt used to be tight.
Man, so when you talk about reference photos, so I've lost at least 50 pounds since I started DDPY the very first time. And I think that's probably going to be the beginning of 2018, I think. And bro, my reference, so they popped up in my memory, the iPhone does the memories.
Yep.
They popped up, and I was like, who's that guy? Like, I look so bad. Like, I can't, like, I was embarrassed to see what I looked like at that moment, because it's easy to say, oh, well, you've lost 50 pounds. Of course you look better. It's not just that. It's the mindset, because in that, like, fat guy struggling to touch his toes in that picture, I could see, well, I haven't groomed myself. I'm dressed poorly, right? My beard is in disarray because I'm not keeping up with it. The house is a mess in the background, right? And it's like, yeah, because I know I remember what I was going through, right? Like, I was not in my best place. And now I look at myself in the mirror every single day, multiple times a day. I love looking at myself. And like, so I had a moment last night.
Good.
When you say how things fit you different or whatever, I was walking into the kitchen because, like I told you guys earlier, I had the longest day in the world, And so I took a little bit of a break because I was falling asleep at my desk, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go mainline some peanut butter, and then I'm gonna come back. As I was walking into the kitchen, I just slapped my leg, just like put my hand on my leg, and I was like, oh, something's wrong. I was like, I can feel like the gap in my quads, like I can feel the veins, and I was like, I don't think in my life I've ever felt that before. And so then I had to like strip down in the kitchen and start posing. And I was like running my hands like all through my quads and my hams. And I was like, I've never had that kind of definition of my legs before, like ever. And I mean, and I've been like right now, I haven't weighed myself in a bit. I know I'm probably around 330 maybe, but when I was even like in the 200s, I didn't have the definition that I have now, because and the reason for that is because I was starving myself back then, and now I'm feeding myself. I'm not malnourished, but like that was a moment of triumph. You know what I mean? Where I was like, okay, maybe this is working. I mean, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm on the way.
It's funny, like talking about muscle definitions and stuff showing as you lose weight, these things definitely start to happen. And even if you're terrible about keeping track, you're going to notice these things. So as a kid, 1993 era, Lex Luger, All American. I thought him being able to make his pecs do the thing
Yeah.
was like one of the most amazing things. Like, wow, he can make his pecs move. Well, I mean, over time, as I've lost weight and I've built up my upper body, more so from doing, push-ups and things with DP yoga, I'm sitting in front of the mirror the other day and I just like, hey. So yeah, it's
It's the small
progress.
victories, brother.
Small
It's the
victories.
small
There you go.
victories.
Every once in a while.
And that's the thing. Like you say that, and you think about Flexi Lexi back in the day, right? Because we
Amen.
both love Lex. Yeah, he's the best.
Who doesn't?
And it's like that makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the message that we both preach in our own way. Your fitness journey is about you. It's about what makes you feel accomplished. It's about what makes you healthy. It's about extending not only your life but enhancing the quality of your life.
Exactly.
And like you could look at yourself in the mirror bouncing your pecs around, and you could say, well, I don't look like Ronnie Coleman, I don't look like Phil Heath. Well, guess what? That's not what you're trying to do. You're just trying to be the best you can be. So
Exactly.
give yourself credit for those small things. We joke earlier about if all you did was walk to the mailbox today, that's not very much. Well, you know what? If walking to the mailbox and back is a lot for you, my hat's off to you, because it's all about doing your best for what your normal is, and then trying to build on that.
Exactly.
Everybody is different, and one thing that we probably don't really need to touch on too much, but just to acknowledge it, for people who have disabilities or chronic illnesses or injuries, like fitness is a completely different animal for those people. You and I are both blessed. Like, you've got asthma and I've got a bad heart, but we both can do pretty much anything we want. For people who have mobility issues or cognitive issues, that don't have the luxury and the privilege of doing what we do so easily, for those people, they need to be uplifted even more, because the barrier for entry is even higher for them.
Yeah.
So if you're a person that struggles with any sort of illness or disability, my hat's off to you as well, because fitness is even more of a thing further away from your center. But at the end of the day, fitness, no matter where you're at in life or what you're doing, can only enhance the quality of your life. It always makes it better.
Definitely. And since we're talking about balance, I think now is a good point to say we have other things we have to get to this evening.
Oh, yeah, we're
You have
running
the
out of
gym,
time. Yeah, I got to
um,
get to the gym.
and I've got chicken cooking in the kitchen.
There you go.
Chicken. Chicken and veggies. Good start. So, yeah, that's
Man, yeah, so we talk, again, we just had a kind of a conversation with each other about balance and goals and different things. I guess for anyone listening, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Find us at Fat to Fit everywhere on social media.
Fat to Fit
And
podcast.
if you have thoughts about what we talked about today, we can certainly revisit it. So let us know what you think, either in the comments here on Twitch or on social media or on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And of course, our social media are right down below. Mine there is over there. Yeah, you can point. Yeah, reach out on the social medias. And we'll see you next time, hopefully, a little less fat, and a little more fit. Now I'm going to hit the end button.